Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this latest ISC webinar, which tonight is all about helping goat producers understand recent LPA changes, what the requirements are for upcoming mandatory electronic identification, and how all of this relates to the NLIS database and what you need to know about your database uploads. My name is Cherie Young, and I'm the Communications Manager here at Integrity Systems Company, and I'll be your host for this webinar tonight. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that we are recording this session, and the recording, plus all of the questions that you asked in registration and all the answers and any questions that you asked tonight, plus their answers, as well as these slides and some other resources that we have, are all going to get emailed out to you. So you'll be able to catch up in the coming days. That'll all be coming out in the next few days, I'd say. So you'll be able to catch up on everything because there is quite a lot to cover tonight. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's a Q&A box, and that is where we encourage you to pop in any questions that come to mind as we go through the content of this webinar. We've got a team of experts in the background ready to answer your questions. So please don't be shy, put them in, ask away, and we'll be doing our best to answer them all and include that in the transcript that you will receive. Now, just to go through the agenda of what you can expect to hear about tonight. First, I'm just going to start off with a very brief overview about Integrity Systems Company and what we do and the programs that we run. Then Elizabeth Bradley, who is ISC's Manager of Quality, Policy and Compliance, is going to take you through a deeper dive into all of the information on the NLIS responsibilities that exist for goat producers, what all the updates are to the Livestock Production Assurance Program, or LPA, that have come through this year. The harvested rangeland goat LPA accreditation is also going to be explored and what that involves. And Elizabeth will also explain to you what's going on in the NVDs, so the new NVDs that have been created and for goats and harvested rangeland goats, and just explain that to you a little bit more. Then George Basher from ISC, he's our operations analyst. He's going to come in and demonstrate the NLIS to you, the key functions that you need to kind of understand or know about when it comes to recording your livestock movements on the NLIS. So he will take you through all that. There is a lot, but don't forget it's all being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it back. And as I mentioned earlier, pop your questions in the Q&A because we have people ready and waiting to respond to any questions that you may have. So, by way of background, in case you're not aware, Integrity Systems Company is a subsidiary of Meat and Livestock Australia. ISC was formed in 2017, and our chief role is to manage the red meat integrity system in Australia. So this is all our key focus as part of that is the on-farm assurance, animal identification and traceability. And essentially what it's all about is ensuring that we meet all these requirements so that Australia can continue to access global markets overseas, which is a big part of our business. So it's important parts of the program. Now, ISC is guided by Safe Meat, which is a partnership between industry and government, and the Supply Chain Task Force, which is made up of a group of representatives from the various peak industry councils, and they provide ISC with operational advice. So this next slide is just a bit more of a deeper dive into the programs that ISC is actually responsible for. So the first one at the top is the NLIS, or the National Livestock Identification System. This is Australia's system for the identification and traceability of cattle, sheep and goats. And it reflects Australia's commitment to biosecurity and food safety, and it definitely assists Australia with that competitive advantage in the global market. All animals are identified with an accredited NLIS tag or device from their property of birth, and as animals are bought, sold and moved through the supply chain, these movements are recorded in the NLIS. And using this information, the NLIS is able to provide a life history of an animal's movement. Now, I know it's going to be a little bit different for the harvested rangeland goat scenario, so we'll be talking about that a little bit more, but that's essentially where that's at. So the system is underpinned by state and territory legislation, and it enhances Australia's ability to track livestock during disease outbreaks or food safety incidents. So incredibly important for that traceability and ensuring our market can stay strong. So the current NLIS system has been around now for over 20 years, and it is an aging system, but there is a major project underway right now to uplift the system and to make it more user-friendly for everyone who needs to interact with it. So ISC is very excited to be working on that project and to have that delivered, tracking for delivery by the 30th of June 2026. So keep your eye out for more information about that. But I just wanted to let you know that improved system with a much more improved user experience is on the way. Now, the other program we run is called Livestock Production Assurance, or LPA, and it is your on-farm assurance program, which again underpins our market access. So LPA covers your biosecurity, animal welfare and food safety, and accreditation in that program gives you the tick of assurance for your product from yourself as the producer right through to the consumer, and it demonstrates the professionalism of our industry. Now, the other program we operate is the LPA NVD, or the electronic NVD, the National Vendor Declarations. And these are legal documents which communicate the food safety and treatment status of these animals as they move through the supply chain. So another very important part of that process. Now, the central connector of all of these, if you like, is the PIC, or the Property Identification Code. And these are allocated to your property by your respective state or territory government. And it will identify your property as a livestock producing property. And you do need to have a PIC in order to access both LPA and the NLIS. So yeah, so that is basically, in a nutshell, what Integrity Systems' role is and what we manage and look after. I'm going to hand you over to Elizabeth now to take you on a bit more of a journey through more information, but don't forget to pop your questions in the Q&A, because we have people ready and willing, and yeah, enjoy, and we'll catch up. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Cherie. And hi, everyone. So as Cherie mentioned, I'm going to run you through some more of the detail around NLIS, LPA and harvested rangeland goats. So to start off with, we'll continue on the NLIS trend. So NLIS is composed of three core elements. So we have the identification of our livestock, and we're moving to those electronic tags starting next year. Having a PIC, or a property identification code, to identify your property or your location as those animals move through the supply chain, and then recording all those movements in the NLIS database so we get that lifetime traceability, and we can trace in if we need to for biosecurity or food safety reasons. So I'm going to talk about each of the elements and how they all fit together and how they work. The slides are a bit slow tonight, sorry. So as a very core reminder, as we move into electronic identification of goats, it's key to remember that the receiver of goats is the person that's responsible for recording transfers in the NLIS database. So if you haven't got an account, make sure you jump on, apply for one, and have a play around. You can't break the system. George will run you through the demonstrations of what you need to do if you're buying in goats, and how to do all that. The requirement under legislation with your state is you have to record transfers of those movements onto your PIC within 2 days of them arriving. If you're selling directly to a processor, they'll do that movement for you. Same thing if they're going somewhere else, that receiving party will do that transfer onto their property. But it's always important to do a check to make sure that they've left your property as well. And if you are using a third party or an agent, you can always request for an upload ID, which is sort of like a receipt number, to verify that transfer has been completed and those animals have moved off your property. And that ensures lifetime traceability as well. In the NLIS database, there's a little area there for you to record the NVD serial number, so the unique number that's on the National Vendor Declaration, and that links those two things together. So we've got a backup for traceability, which is very, very important for biosecurity, and even more important if we're tracing food safety issues through the supply chain. So those key reminders are especially important as we move into the electronic identification of goats starting next year. So 2 days of arrival if you're buying in goats, making sure you've done those checks if you have dispatched them, and also making sure that if you've relied on another person, making sure that they've done that transfer for you is really important. In terms of identifying your goats, so this is obviously the biggest change coming in starting on the 1st of January next year. So we're changing from visual tags, which are just a piece of plastic, to an electronic tag, which has a microchip on the inside of that device. So all farmed or managed goats leaving properties from the 1st of January, born on or after 1st of January 2025, need to be identified with an electronic tag or an NLIS approved EID. When you're ordering those tags, make sure it's for the right species. So they need to be goat tags for goats. Their sheep tags are physically the same tag, but they're coded differently and uploaded differently. So you need to be specific when you're ordering them. You only ever need to apply one EID to a goat. And once it moves through different properties, that tag stays with it for its lifetime. So it gives it that lifetime traceability at the individual level. If it's got a visual tag applied to it, you can just apply an EID to it. There's no need to remove that visual tag because it won't interfere with the tracing. For colours of tags, we've got the year of birth colours available for goats, which is up on screen there. So you can order them in terms of year of birth. It's mandatory in WA, voluntary in all other states and territories. You use the year of birth colour tags to identify stock that's born on your property. So exactly the same process with the visual tags now. And then if it's not been born on your property, you apply a pink post-breeder tag, and that indicates that you didn't breed that animal. They're the requirements for tagging. In terms of what tags are available for you, they're all up on screen. So these are the ones that are approved under the NLIS. They're available for purchase through a number of different mechanisms, depending on where you are in Australia. We have multiple different varieties of tags. There's lots of wraparound tags, which are basically a loop style that pierce through the ear and kind of connect into one piece. There's also some tags that have a sort of a two-piece mechanism. So it's really important to check to see what's working for you and what's not, and try a few out if you're not having luck with one style. We've got a goat leg band as well that's approved for goats if you have difficulty applying an ear tag to smaller eared goats. The two-piece button tags might work better in some situations depending on your fencing environment. The key things is always to remember to make sure you have the right applicator, the pin is sharp, you're following those instructions really well, and you're using those disinfectants to get the best application through. So all the same things that you would be doing with your visual tags, but making sure that you've got that right application if you've changed tag type, for example, as well, is really important. Again, ordering tags for goats is really important, and making sure that you're specifying you need goat tags. If you do have sheep as well, making sure that you know which ones are sheep and which ones are goats. The manufacturers will actually put a little slip or notice on the packaging to tell you that it's for goats or for sheep. So just be aware of that when you go to tag your livestock as well. Those tags are coded as a species code. So when the tag manufacturer uploads them into the database for you, when you order them, they'll be coded as goat tags, as well as some information around, that it's your pick that they're going on to, what year they were uploaded, and the information that's actually printed on the outside gets linked with that microchip number. So we've got a backup in case the microchip stops working as well. And again, equally important to make sure you've got the right applicator, following those instructions. And if you do have any issues, that's when you can get in touch with either the supplier of those tags or with ISC. So you're well within your rights to go and contact the supplier who's sold you those tags to get a replacement or a refund, or have them come out and check what's gone wrong if you've got issues with retention or application. So they're your first point of call all the time if you've got a problem with a tag. If you're unhappy with their response or you want to raise the issue further, you can actually log an online complaint with ISC, and that's where me and my team will pick it up and follow that through with an investigation as well. So if you do have issues, please report them, because if we don't know about it, we can't fix it. But definitely first point of call is about getting replacements or refunds or anything else is with that supplier directly under the consumer guidelines. So that's an overview of NLIS and EID requirements for goat producers. So we'll now talk about the LPA requirements, which is your assurance program in terms of food safety. So LPA contains standards, which basically you need to meet in order to sell your animals using the LPA NVD. The different modules of LPA cover off on food safety. So that's the top 4 on the screen there. And then we talk around how you fill out NVDs and your NLIS compliance, as well as your on-farm biosecurity and animal welfare requirements. Another key one there, which I'll talk a little bit more about in the harvested rangeland goat section, is also the fit to load requirements, which has a lens on animal welfare as well. So effectively, to become LPA accredited, you do need a PIC. So you need that PIC from your state government first. You apply or register via MyMLA, which is the gateway sort of into the integrity system. From there, you complete accreditation steps, which is a self-assessment. You confirm you agree and understand the requirements of the program, and you pay a $90 application fee. That all together grants you accreditation. You can also do LPA learning modules. There are e-learning modules which are available for free online, so you can do them, or your staff can do them if you have employees that you want to put through it as well. And they explain more about the requirements and how to meet it. We also have loads of resources on record keeping, on what you need to do, and basically everything you need to do for LPA accreditation on our website for free. So all of these requirements work together to underpin the declarations you make on the national vendor declarations in relation to food safety. So making sure that you're adhering to the standards is really important, because it gives us that tick of assurance that the animals that we're producing into red meat meet that standard for Australia. So property risk assessments all around looking at the contamination risks on your property and documenting any down and what risks you've controlled in relation to those. Safe and responsible animal treatments, as if you're giving them any medications, treatments, vaccines, etc., and making sure you've got adequate records to back up those statements on your NVDs. The same thing with module 3, it's all around what you're feeding your livestock. So if you've sprayed chemicals on pasture, making sure you're adhering to withhold periods before they go back in and graze, or if you're bringing in food, making sure that you've got appropriate documentation to know the residue risk or the contamination risk of the food that you're feeding your livestock. Preparing livestock for dispatch, equally, it's around checking that they're fit to load, they're going to make the intended journey, that you've got a good reputable transporter, it's clean, it's tidy, it's not going to contaminate them, and doing all of those checks with the transporter before they leave the property. In terms of livestock transactions and movement, so I sort of touched on NLIS requirements, but it's all about having identification of livestock, doing your NLIS transfers, and also completing your NVDs correctly and accurately. As well as if you're buying in livestock, you need to get a copy of those NVDs as well when they arrive, and you need to keep those for 7 years as well to make sure that you've got those records in case of traceability issues. The other requirements around having a biosecurity plan, so that's for your farm and how you implement biosecurity controls for things coming on and leaving your property. And finally, the last requirement there is around animal welfare. So that's around having access to the standards and guidelines. So standards and guidelines for goats available free and online. You can have them on your computer or you can print them off. Also doing the LPA animal welfare training online as well is a requirement. And if you do have employees or staff members that are doing animal husbandry activities, making sure they're aware of their responsibilities under those standards is another requirement with LPA. That's the very core, the very key things with LPA in terms of what you need to do as a goat producer. That's LPA accredited, and that's industry standard. So it's the same for cattle and it's the same for sheep, and that's setting the minimum industry standards around livestock production for food safety. There has been some key changes to the LPA program in 2024, so it's been really exciting to push these through and see the evolution of the program and how it's going to support the red meat industry into the future. So what we have done is we've actually changed the way that people accredit in LPA to try and promote more awareness and education and give you some more resources as you go through the process. So If you've done it before, you might have remembered a multiple choice quiz that asked you questions in relation to the standards. What we've done is we've replaced that step with a self-assessment, which basically gives you lots of options to self-assess about how you're meeting or demonstrating compliance to the standards. And at the end of that, you get a recommendations report with links to resources that might help you better comply with LPA as you move through your operations. It's also a lot easier to use. It's a bit quicker to do as well. So it's a nicer user experience and as you use it through on the computer. And we do have that lovely report at the end of it, so you can access those report resources if you need them as well. You can access this. It's already available if you go to recomplete reaccreditation next time round. You'll actually see this new process. Or if you're reaccrediting for the first time, it'll be presented to you as well. So it's a really great change and makes it a little bit easier to complete accreditation as well. Another key change that we've made is we've made the accreditation cycle length from 3 years down to 2 years. And this is again around ensuring awareness and keeping people aware of their LPA requirements and obligations. We've also left the accreditation fee at $90 for that 2 years. So that's providing more support and funding the LPA program in the audit program, comms support we do, webinars like this, our contact centre as well. So all of those support costs for accreditation and running the program. And now, most excitingly, I'm sure you've all been waiting to hear all about the new harvested rangeland goat voluntary module that's been built into LPA. So the harvested rangeland goat module has been negotiated very carefully by the Goat Industry Council with state governments to ensure that there's a device-free pathway for harvested rangeland goats from the 1st of January next year. So this is really key. So without this approval program, they would have had to been tagged with EIDs, which is a real benefit for those people that capture harvested rangeland goats. This approval process it strengthens the traceability and the assurance we can provide to the export of goat meat. And it does allow producers to continue to capture goats from a harvested state without having to tag them with an EID after the 1st of January. So it's a really great initiative. And I'll walk you through how it all works and what you need to do to apply. So starting out with the definition, because everyone loves the definition, it's really quite important for this. So a harvested rangeland goat is a goat that's captured from a wild state. So you can only capture a goat once from a wild state, and then it's not in a wild state anymore. So keep that in mind. It also is not born as a result of a managed breeding program. So if you've captured goats from the wild before, you've had them on your farm and you're using them for breeding, those goats are no longer eligible to be moved without an EID. And also those goats cannot be subject to any animal husbandry procedure or treatment. So if you need to treat them for some sort of issue, they're no longer able to be moved as a harvested rangeland goat. So goats that are managed in any way are not eligible to be moved tag-free. So that's the defining requirement around this harvested rangeland goat module. Also to keep in mind that the registered goat depots that consolidate these harvested rangeland goats, they're the ones that aggregate those goats together prior to them moving on to slaughter. And registered goat depots effectively are controlled through NLIS and state registrations and through this program as well. Now, if you do capture harvested rangeland goats, you can apply to become part of the harvested rangeland goat module within LPA. So you need an LPA accreditation to start with and have goats listed on your profile. That's your starting point. So you need a PIC, you need to have that LPA accredited with goats, and then you need to make an application for harvested rangeland goat accreditation. So you do that via your LPA account. And after through the application process, you'll answer a series of questions about your location of where you capture those goats and your understanding of the requirements around what goats are harvested, rangeland goats, and which goats are not, and if you're a registered goat depot or not as well. That application will actually be sent to your state or territory government. So South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, and Western Australia all prepped and ready. If you're a Queensland producer, you need to actually apply to the Queensland Biosecurity first to amend your registered biosecurity approval to include harvested rangeland goats. Then you would provide us that copy of the approval, and then we'll approve that in the system if we've got the letter. So just keep that in mind if you're Queensland based. Once the state looks at that application, they'll approve it, or maybe not, depending on their situation. And then you'll get a notification that it's been approved. From there, you need to log back in and then pay another $90 fee to add that harvested rangeland goat accreditation to your LPA accreditation. That will actually add a status to your PIC in the NLIS database as well, which indicates that you're harvested rangeland goat approved. And it will let you buy harvested rangeland goat NVD books or access the harvested rangeland goat ENVDs. So that's the process. The additional fees to cover the audit requirements that are required as part of this module as well. So the harvested rangeland goat NVD is a brand new national vendor declaration specifically made for harvested rangeland goats. It's asking you for the number of goats that you have captured and you can confirming that they are actually indeed harvested rangeland goats. There's a key change to the national vendor declaration for goats, which is the red one up on the screen there. So this one is removes the references to the tag-free movements and the movements to a stock feedlot type question, which is in relation to those harvested rangeland goats previously. So that new version of the NVD book has been available since the 1st of October and it's now available on the ENVD system as of today. The harvested rangeland goat NVD for those people approved in the module has been available since the 1st of October as well. It is important to note that if you are approved in the harvested rangeland goat module, you will be audited once every 2 years to confirm that you're capturing harvested rangeland goats and strict oversight of that movement as well through the NLIS database. If you're found to be capturing or not sending goats that are eligible on a harvested rangeland goat NVD, we can remove that approval and effectively that stops you from moving and participating in that module any further. So that's the requirements there. The other key thing to remember around harvested rangeland goats is when you do capture them and you're loading them onto the truck for transport, either direct to a processor or to a registered goat depot, it's really important that you're loading as per the fit to load guide. So those animals really need to be fit to load before they're put on that truck, because they're still required under your LPA accreditation to meet that fit to load requirement. So the LPA requirements don't go away just because you're registered in the harvested rangeland goat module. They're equally applicable to those captured goats as well. If you are tech savvy and really interested in it, you can use the ENVD mobile app as well to create your harvested rangeland goat ENVDs as they move through the supply chain. So up on screen, we've got a few screen grabs there, but effectively it asks you if you want to create a HRG NVD if you're approved, confirm that those goats are all harvested rangeland goats and the number of those goats that are moving through to the next party. The mobile app is a great way to submit consignments if you're ready to go. As a reminder, the key dates around EID and harvest rangeland goat. So on the 1st of October, we launched that HRG module. The new version of the goat NVD and the new harvested rangeland goat NVD became available and live. The key date is to remember that on the 1st of January 2025, very close now, sheep and goat EID is starting to come in mandatory across Australia. And then approval under the HRG module will be required to move harvested rangeland goats without an EID. And then from the 1st of July 2025, the existing goat NVD, so the previous version, will be invalid. And then we've got all the stage dates for EID. So from the 1st of July 2026, WA, everything has to be tagged with an EID. And then from the 1st of January 2027, everything nationally, sheep and goats, will be tagged with an EID. Some good dates to remember. If you're confused about your state requirements, please let us know or reach out to them directly. I think that's all I have for tonight. I'll jump into Q&A if there's any questions that I can answer, but I'll hand over to you, George.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and welcome everyone. Just going to share my screen. I've been busy answering some questions, so thanks for your great questions. There are some pretty good ones there. I'm going to talk through the NLIS system. My name is George, and I've been working on NLIS since inception back in 1999. So hopefully I'll be able to show you what's going on. If I do go fast, probably can't slow down, but you can always watch these again. So you can listen to all the things that Elizabeth and Cherie have said and what I'm going to show you. The first thing we do is we'll log into the NLIS. So it's nlis.com.au. You need access to it. And the best way to go through is via MyMalay, which has also been mentioned. So we'll click on login via MyMalay. If you haven't got a MyMalay account yet, it's best to get one. And I'll show you what it looks like in a second. But you have one email address and a password. So you don't have to remember, the current NLIS user ID, which is a whole heap of numbers and letters. So MyMalay, like most things these days, is just an email address and a password. And from here, you can link all your programs that we manage. So NLIS is one, LPA and NVD, which is what Elizabeth has been talking about. NLIS there, MSA, sheep genetics, my feedback. So these are all programs that we manage. So you can access them all through one portal, and they'll all be here. So we'll click on continue to NLIS. I have a few accounts. Today we're going to go through my producer account. Some of you only have one, some of you have multiple accounts. So we'll click on login. It's now taking me into my account. So this is my producer account. Up here, there's a help tool. We click on help tools. And these are for sheep mobs, for goat mobs. These are all clickable. They're all links. There's a whole heap of reports. Some are quite old, August 2012, but they're still current. So I'll go back home. And obviously what's missing is the purpose for today, doing goat EID. So from here, you'll click on what do I want to do today? And we're going to add goats in here. So we go change my types of livestock. Click go. Now we're going to tick on goat individual. We'll keep the goat mobs for now. We'll still be using them for another month. We can continue. And now from this drop-down menu, I'm going to select goat individual. Go back to the help tools. I now have goat individual. We've only got a couple of reports, but the rest are on all the other pages. So click back home. And ensure to keep your email address up to date. Click on change, and that will allow you to update your contact details. This way we can contact you to inform you about things like this webinar. So always try and keep them up to date. I'm going to click on this hide header button up in the top right. And that's going to free up all this top space. I'll click on hide header. Give us a bit more room to play with. So today we're going to do a movement of some goat tags. And then we're going to go and run a few reports. So what do I want to do today? We've already looked at these top two, changing your account details, adding livestock. Then it's broken up into another section called notify the database of. And this is where you do transactions. So you're moving or changing the status. And then down the bottom, all your queries or your reports. So we'll start off with livestock that have moved onto my property. And we'll use this fairly new function called livestock moved onto my property, sheep, goats, SA camelids, alpacas and llamas. So we'll click on this one. Click go. And all the time you'll have two options. You can upload a file, create a Microsoft Excel file, or you can do it on screen. I always encourage do it on screen. It's a lot quicker, a lot easier, and very hard to make mistakes. So we'll click on I want to type in the details. And there are 6 fields. The first one is the tag numbers. So got some tag. Oh, I had tag numbers. Just responding to an answer before. These are some tag numbers. So a heap of tag numbers. You can see that this is the RFID, and you get this number from using a scanner. That's the microchip number. This is the outside visual number. So we have a combination of both. So you can quite easily read the outside number. It's got the pick of the property that applied this tag. A is the company that made the tag. K tells us it's a go tag. The reason why we put this in here, the reason why we identify goat tags as opposed to sheep tags and cattle tags, when they're in animals' ears, we look at the animal, we know what the animal is, obviously. But it also stops people putting the wrong tag in the wrong animal. So we identify that as well. And more importantly, at abattoirs and sale yards, they're scanning the animals, and all they're doing is scanning the tag. They're not telling us this is coming from a sheep. And although we can tell by the NVD, they don't always upload the NVD. So these are some tag numbers, and that's why we have letters in these tag numbers to identify them. Where they go into, I've got all this information here. They go into this property, QDZZ. I have two properties, so they go in between my two properties, and they come in from this property. So I've got all this recorded somewhere. I've got a piece of paper with all these details. There's the NVD serial number. Again, what Elizabeth showed you. They're moving today, and the total number ahead is 20. Now, there's not 20 tags here. That's because not every animal has to be tagged on the 1st of January, only newborns. So what we're going to do here is we're doing two things, really. We're moving these animals, moving all these animals, but we're also saying there's a head count of 20. So we'll click continue and ask you for confirmation. Is this what you want to do? You want to move 20 head from this pick to this pick? Go yes. It's now sending that to the database. It's gone. This is the upload ID. And it was mentioned earlier, we're going to be changing the whole database. It'd still be the same sort of process, the same workflow. It's going to be changed at all. And this will be called a transaction ID, not an upload ID. But there's just some very minor changes and tweaks we're going to make to the system. And because we split the file into two, or we did two things, we've got individual tag numbers, and we've got here mob of 20. Now, to see what happened, we click on this View My Transaction History. And what have we done today from the 19th to the 19th? So today, what have we done? And this is the file now we just did. That was the 3 upload ID numbers we got. And we have an error. Click on the error and say the device is already registered. So this is this 1255. It's already there. And if you noticed when I did the upload, I put this tag number in twice to show you what would happen. So the first time, the database moved this animal, then this one, then this one. It moved this one, and then it said, well, I can't move this because it's already there. So that's a message that you quite often get. You may get an error, which means we couldn't put it through because it's already gone, or a warning to say it did put it through, but there was an issue with it. So we close this. And that's how to do a simple system, or not a system, sorry, how to do a simple transfer of goat tags. Now, the hardest thing obviously is getting the tag numbers, and you can do that visually from the outside of the tag or by using a scanner to scan the inside. Click on home. So we'll go back to where we were. And that's the process of doing a transfer. Now we'll look at some reports. So we've done the movement. We'll scroll down and we'll do some reports. Look at view, generate all reports, or view devices on my property. Takes you to the same spot. So we want to look at all the animals on this pick at the moment. 2014. And we've got sheep, cattle, goats. We click on all. There's 2014, there's 20 on a page. We sort by speed. These are all sortable. So if you want the information, you need to download this data. You click on these headings and we'll sort it in alphabetical order like that. We can scroll down to goat tags. There's some goat tags. This is my test account. So we use this quite a bit for testing. So I go, that's one report we run. You can run, and you can always go down the bottom of the page and export the data and export the outside tag number, the inside tag number, or the whole lot. Scroll back up. You can look at what has moved onto your property. So livestock that have moved onto my property. What's moved on this month? Nothing on QBZZ. We'll try the other one, QDZZ. 6 animals. And these are the ones we just moved now. Remember, that was 1255. So if you do it, you want proof, you can look at the transaction history, or you can run this report. If someone does the transfer for you, you can go in here and you can confirm this by saying, well, I want to see if they've moved it. They said they were going to, so you log in and you go, you want to look at livestock that have moved onto my property and check whether they have done the movement or not. So very important to run these reports. We quite often, through LPA on-farm audits, we get people who haven't done transfers and they say, my agent was going to do the transfer, or the person who sold the animals to me said they were going to do it. So very simple way, log in and you can actually check to see if the transfer occurred. Now, these animals have come from QBZZ, that's the source pick. You can jot that down. And if you want to remember, who was that person, click on the home, go back to the reports, and you search the pick register. So we click on this, click go. We type that pick number in. And again, this is my little test account and my test picks, what I use for demonstrations like today. So you run a report, you say, okay, these animals have come on, these goats have come on my property, where have they come from? You list the pick there for you, there may be more than one. You want to know who that person is. Go to your NLIS database homepage under reports, and it's called Search the Pick Register. It's our most popular report, the one that's run the most of all the reports. So, and you type in any pick and it'll give you the result. Do the other one. Again, a test account, a test pick. Back home, there's a couple other reports that we've been asked to show most people. There's one called under here, under reports again. We click on view generator reports. We go. I want to look at all the devices that I've purchased. So the tags that I've bought. So devices purchased. So in the last 12 months, I've purchased 50 goat tags. These are not animals that have been transferred to my pick, but these are the physical tags that I bought from the tag manufacturer. People use these to do on-farm management. So again, you just go down, you can export the tag numbers, put them into your software system, put them to Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is you need these tag numbers for. They're all sortable by all these fields and top are sortable. Remember, I have two properties, QBZZ, also called QDZZ. I haven't bought any tags for this property, but I bought animals and moved on. So that's a slight difference. You can look at transfers on or transfers off, what has happened. And you can look at what is currently on my property, which we did initially there in 2014, or tags that I've purchased to use in my animals. So that's all the reports we've done. Now that the tag numbers, there were a few questions about the tag numbers. One of the questions was color. You need to speak to your DPI, your local state department. And the other one was the chip. So the microchip numbers of the chip inside a goat tag, a sheep tag, and a cattle tag have the same frequency. So you can use the same wand or scanner you've got for any of those three species to scan any tags. So the cattle, sheep, and goat tags are all the same microchip inside, and they're all applied for specific animals. So you buy goat tags for your goats, sheep tags for your sheep, and cattle tags for cattle, and the codes inside, obviously identify that. And that's it for me. And once again, you can watch this afterwards, and hopefully you if you did miss something, you can pick it up later.
Thank you, George. I just wondered, George, before you go, do you think you could just take us through the mob-based? So I think we saw the individual, which was great, but just for HRG side of things,
Yep.
do you think you could just give us a little look at that before you
definitely.
sign off? Thank you.
Yes. So under here, I want to work with goat individual. We change that now to I want to work with goat mobs. Same process. This is what we do. There's our reports. You see there's a lot less. So mob-based movement onto my pick. Click go. Again, we just want to do it on screen. It's easier to just type in the details. A few more bits of information here because we don't have a lot of information about the animal anymore. We don't know where it's been. So we enter in the from pick. Number ahead. So there's 20 in the mob. And these are coming onto my property, remember, so I have a selection. The waybill is mandatory because that's how or the NVD serial number, LPA and NLIS number is mandatory. So we're entering the number here. Are there other picks or brands listed on the NVD? So as you know, if you buy an animal, you put a pink tag in the other ear, or you have to write down the number. So this is the current mob-based movement. HRG is different because there's no tags at all. Are they all eligible to move goat free? Tag free, sorry. You go yes. And you can add comments in here. Continue. Sorry, didn't tick it. Again, confirmation. This is about what you do. You're about to move goats. This is the comment. We continue. Now send it off to the database. Once again, docket number, receipt number, soon to be called a transaction ID. And we click on here to see how it worked. To view my transaction history. What have we done today? And here it is up here, the mob-based movement. Mob-based movement did the onto property. The status is complete. There's no issues with it. And it converts what we just did on screen to this. So a lot of people, it doesn't make much sense, but if you read it out, you know that it came from this pick. That was the NVD serial number. It went to this pick. We moved it today. And the number ahead was 20. That's the information. It takes it away from that, what's on the screen, into this, it's called XML. It's just a language, a computer language. But if you read it slowly, it'll make sense, sort of. All the information is there, like I said, it's got the number of the NVD, where it's come from, where it's gone to, and the number ahead. So all the information is there, and when it moved, obviously. Any comments that you've got? Just typed in HRG, you can put a lot more comments in there. And that's your mob-based movement. So HRG, you can move them in mobs, you still record it here, like this. Anything else,
Thank
Ree?
you, George. I think that's got it covered. Thank you for jumping in with that last bit. I think that was a good inclusion. But yeah, appreciate your demo, George. Like we said, everybody, that is all being recorded, so we'll be able to watch that back. And we will be sending that out to you with a bunch of different resources on how to upload the data and keeping the NLIS up to date. Obviously, a really important part of the integrity system and everything we're trying to do here. Now, look, thank you for your questions. It's been great to see so many coming in. That's really good. Before we head off for the sign off for the webinar, we can keep it open a little bit longer to answer any further questions that you have. But I just wanted to, before you all go, I just wanted to just sort of pass on these, I guess, top 3 takeaways, because I know there is a lot of info in these webinars. But I guess number 1, from an integrity point of view, is if you're harvesting rangeland goats, you can apply for that accreditation now. If your application is approved by your state or territory department, you will then be able to move your harvested rangeland goats device-free from the 1st of January next year. So yeah, get onto it now, and then the state and territories will be able to review those applications, and that's how that system works. The other one, number 2, is just to get really comfortable with your NLIS transfers. It's an individual movement, as George has just shown us, for farmed goats. And if you're moving harvested rangeland goats, you do that as a mob-based movement, if you're accredited to do so through the program, which George has just given you the steps. But yeah, really important to keep that one top of mind. It is the receiver's responsibility to do this. We always say that, but we also say it doesn't hurt to check that it happened, that that animals on your pick match what's on your pick, if you know what I mean. So what's on the database matches what's outside. So yeah, so that's the other one. The next one is to make sure, when you're using the NVDs or the ENVDs, make sure you've got the correct version. Ensure that you select the correct species. If you're using the ENVD or if you're using the books, make sure you've got the most current version. So the number G0524 is the goat NVD form, and HG0324 is your form for the harvested rangeland goats. Then the current goat form, G0720, won't be acceptable beyond July next year, 2025. So we've got all this in the slides, but I just wanted to leave you with those key points to take away. And I guess the other one is the species-specific tags. Really important to remember that goat tags are for goats, sheep tags are for sheep, and there's lots of reasons why, but we have species-specific tags is a very important part of it all. Now, this slide outlines some resources that we have, and we'll be able to share those with you. There was also a survey that just got put in our chat, which we'd really appreciate you being able to fill that in so we can get some feedback on what you found useful, if there's other topics you'd like to hear about, just any feedback to help us provide more informative and educational webinars going forward. Really, really appreciate if you can take the time to do that. And yeah, other than that, we've got a few more questions coming in, which we can get to. There's going to be an email coming out to everyone who registered for this webinar in the next few days with all of these resources and the questions and answers and the recording. So there's lots of information there. Our ISC's customer service centre is now open 7 days a week. We have a slide with the numbers that we can share. There it is in the bottom, the phone number. So you can now get in touch with us by phone 7 days a week. If you've got any questions about any of this information, we're very happy to help you. So just have a look. We have still got some questions coming through, so we can keep that open. We can keep the webinar open to answer those remaining questions. But I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you very much for giving up your evening time and for asking all your questions. And we hope you got lots of information out of the webinar.